1961 was a special baseball season. Roger Maris belted 61 home runs, breaking Babe Ruth's single-season mark of 60 set back in 1927. Along the way, a back-and-forth chase with teammate Mickey Mantle caught the attention of an entire nation. 50 years later, the M&M boys might not be around to celebrate the memories of that historic season, but we recently caught up with some of Maris's children, Randy, Richard, Kevin, and daughter Susan in Gainesville, Florida, to discuss the season that will forever immortalize their father.
The inner struggle he had, not only were the fans all over him, but he also had, for a time, because Mickey Mantle was really institutionalized as a Yankee. Even players on the team were pulling for Mickey. They weren't outwardly rooting for him, but they were pulling for him. So he was getting it from all directions. It had to be just something that should have been a blessing ended up being such a curse.
Yeah, I mean, you guys need to get. I mean, he's right at the point where I really don't ever remember talking about all that. So you guys need to take care of some of that. Well, let me get down the road.
Well, the hitting, they say the pitching was diluted and stuff like that in '61. Well, when we talked to Dad about it, Dad had always said that, it's tough to hit off a new guy, and a young guy that's coming up because they don't have the command that 1 and 2 starters have, and Dad, if you look back, had better success against the 1, 2, and 3 starters than the 4 and 5 starters, so those weaker guys are actually tougher to hit from the standpoint they don't have the command that they got, that the big guys got, and those guys are always tougher to face. And so, you can weigh that diluted stuff all you want.
It just seemed like they were trying every angle to discount what he was doing that season. And it's just, if you can get in a time machine and go back and just tell these reporters, do you realize what's going on right now? Do you realize what this man is about to do? I think everything would be different.
I think the media is a little different these days. I think they're all wanting to see something heroic happen. Where back then, Babe Ruth was such an icon of the game, and he pretty much made baseball what it was. And for Dad to come in and kind of step on, that record a little bit and overtake it was, I'm sure the media just wasn't used to handling stuff like that.
Doing what he did and being a Yankee do it, I don't know if it was as good if he would have done it somewhere else and been in a different, setting. Then right there in New York with Babe playing there and, and then having to deal with the Mickey thing. And he definitely wasn't the favorite coming into the whole thing. But he was a young kid, like Randy said, from the Midwest. He was, a farm kid, and he just doing what he's trying to do to survive. And he just so happened to hit 61 home runs in '61. And, the rest speaks for itself.
I have an opportunity to go down to Clearwater and play in a Major League Alumni baseball game year in, year out. And, I get to mingle with all the players Dad used to play against and even some older players. And at a couple of years back, I had the opportunity to sit down with Bob Feller. We were in the locker room dressing and stuff. He came walking up to me and he goes, "Kevin," he goes, I got a story I need to tell you. And I said, "What's that, Bob?" And he's like, "Well, Bob Fischel and I are good friends. And I was with him on his deathbed in the hospital. And he goes, I asked him the question, if there's anything he would change, in his life, what would it be?" And he said he would handle the Roger Maris situation different. And that in itself was a pretty touching story to me. And for him to share that with me was pretty special.
How does that make you feel? Bob Feller's coming up to you. Bob Feller, a Hall of Fame pitcher, and he's giving you this story on Bob Fischel's deathbed. He's thinking of your father. That has to be amazing.
Yeah, it is. For him to even be worrying about that or even having that go through his mind at that given time was, pretty phenomenal. But you see, it probably weighed on him pretty heavily the more you look back on it and stuff. And, he was new to something like that, as something, they'd never experienced there probably. And, you don't know how you're going to react until you get in those situations. You can say you can prepare all you want, but you know, until you're in that situation, you don't know how you're going to handle it. And you know, that was a pretty touching story that he, you know, revealed to me. And you know, Bob Feller, you know, he's one of the greats of the game, and you know, he's so respected with baseball, and just, you know, it's an honor to hear that from him.
There goes Tony, and there's a high drive.